Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting installment of JayEmm Friends. This week, once again, I'm throwing my co-conspirator Antony into the deep end. When last week he came to me saying, James, I need to do a video featuring some cool shots. Have you got any suitably cool cars coming up? And I said, yes, Antony, I've got just the ticket, because this week I am reviewing the coolest Kia of them all. This is the Kia Stinger, a car that landed back in 2017, and I've got it this week to say goodbye to it because for 2023 the car is being discontinued, replaced in theory with the all-new EV6 GT electric SUV. But for me, the Stinger has always been a car with a special place in my heart because to me, this is the car that made Kias cool. And Antony is here just in time to say hello to it because I think this is a car that should be able to convince anybody of that fact. So, in this video, Antony's going to be talking you through some of his funky shots, how he does them, and whether he is also convinced by the coolness of the Stinger.
When James said to me, oh yeah, I've got a Kia for you, I was like, yeah, dude, I want a cool car. When he said it was a Stinger, I was like, actually, no, that's cool. That's very, very cool.
Before I show you around the car and then take it on the road, I briefly want to mention those impossible shots in the opening to this video, captured with this, the Insta360 1RS 1-inch 360, chosen for its superior quality thanks to its larger 1-inch sensors and Leica lenses. That opening shot is possible because the Insta360 invisible selfie stick disappears between the gap in the lenses, and with a little movie magic, I then erase most traces of the suction mount. There are almost infinite possibilities to what you can do with Insta360 cameras, however, I often use them in ways that are far less obvious. For example, generating multiple static camera angles as if there are numerous cameras in the car, yet doing so with a single Insta360 device. Today, as well as those impossible opening shots, I'll be using just two Insta360 cameras on either side of the car, but as you'll see, they'll be doing the work of many more cameras, thanks to the ability to shoot first and point later in any direction. Insta360 were kind enough to send me this camera and, with it, details on some special deals they're offering just for you, so keep an eye on how many different onboard angles the side-mounted cameras are producing today, and stay tuned for the special deals available to you at the end of this video.
So let's look at some of the details on the car. Now you have a very, very aggressive front end. James mentioned that it kind of almost has cues from various different other cars, but to be honest, I think they've managed to achieve a look for this car that is, I would say, distinctive, very sporty, and it definitely says, I'm not your typical Kia. I am not the kind of car that grandma will be driving, but the kind of car that, well, frankly, someone like myself might drive, someone who likes a sporty, aggressive drive. The overall finish on some of these parts, like the colors here, I think are really, really cool. These chrome bits are kind of a bronze chrome, and against this particular green color, I think look really, really good. There's actually quite a lot going on the front here. We can see that it's got a camera and sensors on the front. We've got these massive grills, these intakes on the side that look entirely functional for brake cooling. We've got these bonnet vents that give it that additional sense of aggression, although sadly, not functional, just decorative. Okay, losing a few points for that. It does look cool, but unfortunately, I can't see any way in which this adds any value whatsoever other than aesthetic. We've also got these mirrors, which are in that kind of bronze chrome finish. I love the black roof that runs across the top of the car and the profile of the car. This is where I suppose you could argue that it's kind of got a little bit of A5 on the back here and maybe a little BMW-esque on the front, but nonetheless combined in a way that I think doesn't appear to be trying to copy, but is in itself distinctive. Further vents here that, unlike the ones on the bonnets, also appear to be functional. Why not just make those ones functional as well? The wheels are okay, they're diamond cut wheels. Not my personal cup of tea in this particular design, but they are very, very stylish. And the lights at the rear showing quite a nice light bar going over the top of the car. And I quite like the styling of the rear. It looks, again, very aggressive with these quad tailpipes. Now, the exhaust actually is floating inside these tips that are integrated into the rear bumper. It's more of a heat shield for the bumper, in fact. So we've got the Stinger logo on here. This is a GT and rightfully boasting a 7-year warranty. And I think this is one of the cool things about the Kia brand. They really pushed the envelope on offering reassurance and peace of mind with these rather long warranties. Some not functional, just stylistic pretend vents here, but we'll forgive Kia for that because, well, most of the rest of them are pretty cool. let's take a look inside the car. First, in the rear. For me, I'm about 5'10". There's an adequate amount of headroom. Now, the roof line does slope down quite a lot. So I think if you were slightly taller or had a longer torso, you might find your hair touching the roof line here. But it is a very, very nice black headliner, and it feels nice. Oh, is that Alcantara? Oh. We've got a couple of charging points, a 12 volt and a USB. Your ISOFIX points here. So if you need the child seat, I'm just thinking about dad cars right now. Shout out to dad cars. I'm pretty sure you'd like this. And of course, we've got the armrest here, which comes down with a couple of very nice cup holders. However, there is a third seat belt for the middle seat, which is a little narrow, but still workable. That would be a very small person. Let's see what the driving position is like by jumping into the front seat. There is height adjustment on the seat, so I can give a little bit more room to the feet of the people behind us. And what a lovely interior. It is very, very luxurious. I've jumped out of the R8 GT and I'm jumping in to the Kia Stinger GT with the emblem right there and the flat bottom steering wheel. Then you've also got this very, very nice feeling kind of metallic finish here, which I think looks really classy. You've got a drive mode selection. I'll talk a bit more about that when I'm on the road. We've also got memory seats. There is a decent sized screen. Some very, very nice metallic buttons. Again, with the physical controls for things like the heating. That is a whistle-stop tour of the inside of the car. So, welcome to the Stinger on the road. Now, I have no idea what James's thoughts are on this car yet. He hasn't told me, so I really just wanted to give my thoughts. And as you're cruising along, you can just feel that this car is comfortable. I understand it has an adaptive suspension system, so right now I've got it in eco mode? No, smart mode. So it tries to figure out what you need. Anyway, I can say that this car feels positive, responsive, comfortable all at the same time in that mode. If anyone knows me at all, they'll know that I'm more interested in sport mode. Now, I'm not going to go to Sport Plus today because that switches off all the traction, but when I do switch on sport mode, the seat squeezes your back. The bolsters come in and squeeze your your waist just to kind of keep you in position. And I have to say, that was a bit of a surprise at first. I was like, oh, it's like it's hugging me. But no, it's actually holding you in place. And given that I tend to spend most of my time in slightly older cars, that was a really cool feature. Now, some of you might have experienced things like that many times before and not be impressed, but I was impressed. I liked it. And in fact, once in a while, if you feel like, I don't know, a little lonely, you can just kind of take it back into comfort mode and then put it back into sport mode. And it gives you another little squeeze. Oh, feels nice. Now, you can use the paddles, which do have a very, very positive feel to them. They're kind of metallic and really, really nice to the touch. It kind of doesn't quite let you rev it out, and it certainly won't let you hit the red line. Speaking of the red line, that is at a slightly disappointing 6,500 RPM, and it just feels like I want a little bit more. But to be fair, I drove here in a car that revs up to 8,750, and that's probably not a fair comparison because, well, it's a car that's originally cost an awful lot more than this. However, even though it does feel like it kind of runs out of revs a little bit soon, I can tell you one thing, it doesn't run out of grunt. Woo! And I can tell you, she is twitchy. She's on Michelin PS4S's, but I'm telling you, the amount of torque it's trying to put down is definitely overwhelming the grip available in those tyres. Now, I do like the head-up display system, providing some additional information, principally what's the speed limit, what speed are you doing, which of course is always going to be less than the speed limit, or no greater than at least, and whether your lane assist is on. And I think there's a button here for me to switch it off when you're on country lanes like this. I just don't think it works, unfortunately. It's almost always necessary at some point just to cross that line, and I do find it tries to just help you a little bit in ways that actually are less helpful, in fact more unhelpful than actually helpful. Now, as I said before, the interior is absolutely delicious. Previously, I talked about the aesthetics of the steering wheel. I really like just the overall leather feel to it, the metallic piece down here, this sort of perforated area here on the steering wheel just feels really nice to the touch. The thumb lumps, as I sometimes call them, where you put your thumb on the steering wheel, I appreciate all of that aesthetically, but I also really like it ergonomically. The area just around where your palm goes is nice and smooth, and the leather kind of progresses into the wheel just so your palm sits there perfectly on the leather part of the wheel. I love the fact that the paddles stay with the wheel, so as you turn it, the paddles turn with it. I don't like when the paddles are fixed and don't turn with the wheel, even though they are actually more practical for most road cars, especially when you're maneuvering in relatively tight corners or urban areas. Frankly, most of the time in an urban area or anywhere with pretty tight corners, I'm probably not going to be using the paddles. It's probably just going to be in auto anyway. And the feedback you get through the wheel is quite nice. The steering actually feels relatively fast in terms of how much turn you get from the wheels from how much turn you put in via the steering. And I really like the way that feels. Like even here in this corner, I'm sort of starting to feel where the tyres weren't actually managing to hold on to quite as much grip. The suspension feels taut but not firm, not overly firm. It kind of absorbs the bumps in sport mode and gives you a really nice sense of confidence, and a little bit too much confidence, because as I started to squeeze the throttle back there, it was, let's just say, getting lively. And believe me, this car will get you into a lot of trouble if you're a little too generous with the throttle, certainly if you're too generous at the wrong time. But when you do use the throttle and you feel the grip coming in, it's great. It's quite surprising actually, because it's a Kia. It's a Kia. It's not meant to do that. This is meant to be, I don't know, the car you take your nan to the shops in. But it just isn't. It's just, well, as James put it, it's cool.
Once again, a huge thank you to Insta360 for sending me the 1RS 360 1-inch. Not only did it deliver some very cool shots, both Insta360 cameras on either side of the car did the work of more than just two cameras, thanks to their ability to overcapture in all directions, then reframe afterwards. And in the ever-dimming light conditions, the 1RS 360 1-inch's larger lenses and twin 1-inch sensors meant it held up better than all the other onboard cameras, even with the settings set to auto. These really are the future of action camera tech, a must-have for any car content enthusiast. And if you want any of Insta360's cameras, we've got a special link in the description that gets you a free select accessory with your purchase.
And if you've enjoyed this, YouTube thinks you'd probably enjoy this one too. And of course, in the meantime, please hit the like button and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you next time on JayEmm Friends.